Born from women's outreach programs at the AIDS Committee of Toronto in 1997, the Toronto Women's Bathhouse Committee formed with an idea to host a radical sex event for queer women and trans people at a bathhouse in Toronto. They wanted to access what gay men had every day of the week, a public space where they could explore the potential that radical sex cultures had to offer. The committee wanted to combat the invisibility of queer women's sexualities, and a bathhouse event was their call to action. Organizers struggled to secure space for an event like this. Bathhouse owners in the city couldn't believe that a women's sex event could be as lucrative as their regular business operations. Eventually, the committee struck a deal with the owners of Club Toronto, where they held the Pussy Palace bathhouse events from 1998 to the early 2010s. The Pussy Palace events happened once a year for the most part, and they were the hottest parties, attracting upwards of 350 people on any given night. They were attended by patrons from across Ontario, some coming from as far as Ottawa to spend a night at the Pussy Palace. Queer women and trans people in Toronto had the opportunity to explore the freedom of their sexuality in ways that the outside world often didn't permit. Even after the fourth event was raided by Toronto police in September of 2000, patrons rallied behind the two volunteers charged with liquor license violations, helping them raise money for their legal fees.
Shout out to the organizers and the participants at Pussy Palace, you rock!
We need to stand together and fight, because if we try to do this individually or with our own little communities, nothing will change.
Their win in court helped ensure that the Pussy Palace bathhouse raid was the last major bathhouse raid in Canada. In 2006, a BIPOC-led subcommittee, recognizing the need for a space exclusive to people of color that didn't feel like the Pussy Palace was for them, launched the Sugar Shack, a smaller, more intimate, but equally as raw event for BIPOC patrons that ran for 2 years at the Central Spa. As the organizers fatigued in the late 2000s and early 2010s, they made one last attempt to make sure that the Pussy Palace was for everyone, by changing the name to the Pleasure Palace. Because after all, not all patrons had a pussy, but the nights were certainly about pleasure. Longtime Palace organizer Chanel Gallant says it best. The Pleasure Palace was a sex and play party, but it was also deeply political. It was an attempt by radical queer women to create a public sexual space as a site of resistance, to politicize ourselves through sexual community, to launch 1,000 orgasms and 1,000 activists, and it did just that.